Arch Manning's position in the SEC quarterback rankings has taken a hit after a tough Week 1 performance. Despite the high expectations surrounding him, a disappointing loss combined with inconsistent play has caused him to slide down the list. Meanwhile, several other quarterbacks in the conference seized the opportunity to shine, stepping up when it mattered most. Let's break down how the SEC's quarterbacks fared after the opening week of the 2025 season. Starting with Zach Calzada, his Week 1 showing was far from ideal. He ranked last among SEC starters in total passing yards, yards per attempt, and completion percentage. To make matters worse, Calzada was one of only 2 starting quarterbacks in the conference who failed to throw a touchdown pass. This kind of start certainly raises questions about his readiness and the offensive scheme around him. Then there's Shapen, who had a decent outing with 270 passing yards and a 77% completion rate. However, considering that much of the SEC was playing against lower-tier FBS or FCS teams, this performance didn't exactly turn heads. He was also one of just 5 starting quarterbacks to throw an interception. Interestingly, 2 of those who threw picks are ranked below him, while the other 2 had standout games despite their turnovers. Pribula earned his spot with a very efficient game, completing over 82% of his passes and averaging 10.1 yards per attempt, along with 2 touchdowns. But it's important to note that his stats came against a notably weak FCS opponent, which tempers the excitement a bit. Ty Simpson's Week 1 was underwhelming, especially given the loss his team suffered. While his overall numbers might look respectable on paper, a completion rate of just 53.5% and 5.9 yards per throw suggest he struggled to capitalize on his opportunities. Simmons showed flashes of brilliance mixed with some costly mistakes. He threw for 341 yards, averaging 11 yards per pass, which is impressive. However, he was the only SEC starter to throw more than 1 interception, with 2 picks on the day. His performance against a weak opponent was strong, but he remains somewhat of an enigma heading forward. Now, let's talk about Arch Manning. Texas as a team didn't perform terribly, but Manning himself was near the bottom of the SEC in nearly every passing category. Completing just 57% of his throws and averaging 5.7 yards per attempt is not the kind of output that will win games in this competitive conference. Missing some relatively easy throws in a close 14-7 loss was a harsh way to kick off the season. This raises the question, is the hype around Manning justified, or is he still adjusting to the college game's speed and complexity? Stockton probably deserves a higher ranking, but the presence of seasoned veterans and some explosive performances ahead of him make it hard to argue for a jump just yet. He impressed in a dual-threat role, throwing for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also rushing for 73 yards and 2 more scores. His versatility makes him a player to watch, and he won't stay low on this list for long. Reed had a solid Week 1, throwing for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. While some experienced quarterbacks didn't play as much due to blowout wins, it's tough to fault Reed's performance. Texas A&M would certainly be pleased with this level of production from their signal caller. Aguilar's debut with the Tennessee Volunteers was a success, throwing for 247 yards and 3 touchdowns against tougher competition than many others faced. This strong start sets a promising tone for his season and could see him climb higher in the rankings. Pavia had an excellent opening week, nearly matching his touchdown passes, 3, with incomplete throws, 5. While this came against Charleston Southern, a weaker opponent, it was still a positive sign for his development. Mateer's 392 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in his SEC debut suggest that Brent Venables' offense could be a force to reckon with in 2025. Although the game didn't reveal much about his ability against top-tier defenses, the numbers alone are impressive. Another quarterback who didn't need much playing time but still threw 3 touchdowns is a legitimate Heisman contender. Of course, this was against Long Island, a relatively easy opponent, but it's still a noteworthy start. Green and Arkansas checked all the statistical boxes in Week 1, even if it was against an FCS team. Green threw for 322 yards, 6 touchdowns, completed 77% of his passes, and averaged 10.4 yards per attempt. These numbers are eye-catching and suggest Arkansas has a potent passing attack. Arnold's passing stats were modest, 108 yards and no touchdowns, making him one of only 2 SEC starting QBs without a passing score in Week 1. However, he led the SEC in rushing with 137 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. His balanced attack helped Auburn secure a significant win over Baylor, a team many expected to disrupt the season. Arnold's steady performance might not grab headlines, but it's exactly what Auburn needed. Sellers did what was expected of him, guiding South Carolina to pull away late against a stubborn Virginia Tech team. He threw for 209 yards and a touchdown on just 19 attempts and added a rushing touchdown. Despite some shaky moments from his offensive line, Sellers' performance was solid, and any struggles South Carolina faced can't be pinned on him. Finally, Nussmeier delivered a smart, mistake-free game for LSU, completing 74% of his passes for 230 yards and a touchdown. His 6.1 yards per attempt might not be flashy, but he managed the game well and led LSU to an impressive road win over Clemson. After Week 1, he's arguably the front-runner for the Heisman Trophy. But here's where it gets controversial. With so many quarterbacks showing flashes of brilliance against weaker opponents, how much weight should we give these early rankings? Are we overvaluing stats against FCS teams while undervaluing performances in tougher matchups? And what about Arch Manning? Does his slow start signal deeper issues, or is it just a bump in the road for a future star? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with these rankings, or do you think some quarterbacks are being unfairly judged? Drop your opinions in the comments and let's get the debate going.